I was going to ask you to retell that story about how the inspiration for this movie and music night got started.
So I, like most musicians, I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan's, and I've always loved the movie Don't Look Back. I have a friend that works over at the charts program at Pulaski Tech College, and she had called me asking me if I had any ideas for shows that they might consider putting at the theater. And I basically told her I thought it would be really cool to do something like they do at Red Rocks during the summertime in Denver, Colorado. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll put together these shows where they'll have popular films and then have local bands open up for them. So kind of a live music film night on the rocks, I think is what they call it. But they liked that idea. And then I told them, I said, well, that Timothée Chalamet movie came out last year. I think that's... And Dylan just played at Robinson. I said that, so it seems to be kind of in the zeitgeist of the local community. I said, why don't we go and show the 65 documentary of Dylan's last acoustic tour through Great Britain, which I don't think they'd ever heard of, frankly, but they liked the idea of it. And I asked them if it would be okay for me to open up for the movie, and they agreed to do it.
So it's such a creative idea. I love it.
Are you familiar with this film?
Very much so. Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times.
So I think it'll be great to be able to see it in a theater, which I've never done. I watched the movie multiple times. Got the Criterion version, where D.A. Pennebacker giving his insights of the background of the story and insight on various scenes throughout the film. But yeah, I think if you're curious about Dylan, especially his earlier career, I think this is kind of the important film to be able to say that you've seen.
It's kind of stunning, isn't it, that he is in the news. If you follow the music news and, as you said, the current zeitgeist, he's in the headlines of, for some reason or another, almost every week. Some song he pulled out for the first time. I saw a post over the weekend. He played Masters of War for the first time in a decade at a concert the other night.
Yeah, I heard this. I also heard a story that he was just up in the Northeast, and he just decided to do some recording and just went to some local studio with his band and just popped in and just started recording for 2 or 3 days.
Wow. There's an endless fascination with the guy, just like the Beatles.
Absolutely. So this film was made in 1965. It wasn't released until 67. But D.A. Pennebacker basically is, using a handheld camera back in the mid-'60s in order to film all of this behind-the-scenes footage of Dylan as he's going through this pretty amazing tour of Great Britain. It was the last time that he went on a tour where he just played acoustic guitar and harmonica. Yep. Kind of a pivotal turn right before he went electric. The scenes of him being interviewed by the press specifically are great to watch because it just seems like there's so many people that just are having a very difficult time wrapping around their mind around what he's been doing.
Yes.
And who he is. Yeah, he's an incredible poet, incredible songwriter, obviously. But one of my favorite scenes is actually towards the end of the movie where he's about to open up 2 nights in a row at Royal Albert Hall in London. And he's being interviewed by Time Magazine, by a journalist from Time Magazine who comes in. And, it feels a little confrontational. Dylan's kind of a little bit on the offensive in the conversation. And during the call or during the interview, the journalist just kind of pauses and then he asks Dylan, he's like, well, do you care about what you sing? Like, do you actually care about the actual sentiments of your song is the way I interpreted that. And Dylan got totally offended by the question. He's like, man, you got a lot of nerve to ask me a question like that. He's like, do you ask the Beatles that question?
Right.
This is popular music. I'm not here to entertain a crowd. It's like, if I could be up there and singing, really intense songs about all kinds of human experiences, and even if it hurts the audience, or like emotionally or whatever, it's like, are they not being entertained? It's a really amazing. One of many amazing moments in the film that I really enjoyed.
It makes you realize that if he is a little prickly about the press, it's deservedly prickly when he gets a question like that. Right,
exactly. And I think he, obviously, I don't know if you've ever read his autobiography, but he basically says, I always just assume that the press is somebody that you lied to. It's interesting take on how he dealt with the media.
Have you been to the museum in Tulsa? I haven't.
I have. It's definitely worth the trip. They are doing a show that is really focused on the Newport experience and when he went electric. And they have a lot of ephemera from that period of his career. And I read something online where I think there's like a 45 minutes worth of film footage that they pieced together for a documentary that you can watch when you go. If you haven't been to the museum in Tulsa, it's definitely worth the drive over to check it out. But all those people in Tulsa will want to come to Little Rock on the 5th to come see this show at the Charts Theater in North Little Rock. I think it's a really beautiful theater. It's a state-of-the-art, amazing jewel of a theater. But I've talked to people around town that just haven't, for whatever reason, had a chance to go over and check it out. And I just would really encourage people to take an opportunity this season to go over and go enjoy a show over there, because it's a gorgeous 450-seat theater over there.
Easy to get tickets to. You can do it all online. UAPTC.edu. That stands for University of Arkansas Pulaski Tech Campus. UAPTC.edu/charts. And it takes you right to the whole season, and it's really easy with a couple of clicks to buy tickets for a couple of the shows, including this one that me and Justin are talking about. It's on Friday, September 5th. Music and a movie, perfect. The 1965 documentary, Don't Look Back, Bob Dylan's tour back then of England. And Justin and his band, the Bijou Boogie Boys, are going to play right before the film, right, Justin?
That's correct. So it's going to be like a 3-act play. So Act 1 and 2 will be the live music performance. I'm expecting about 3 to 5 songs max. I don't want to play too long because I want to get into the film. But we're going to try to play for 10, 15 minutes. It's going to be original material. But that's one of the first 2 acts. The second, I actually worked with a French chanteuse who goes by the name of Tourbillon Broom. And I helped her produce a song, and she took it and put together a really beautiful black and white, well shot, beautifully artistically presented video that's about 3.5 minutes that we're going to use also to kind of go in conjunction with the movie. Because of the black and white element, I felt like it would be a really good pairing with Don't Look Back.
This is a really well put together evening. This is going to be great fun.
Thanks a lot. I really hope that we get a good crowd for it. It's really fun also to just kind of look at the movie and just realize that Dylan was at the pinnacle of pop stardom at this time. Back in 1965, he was the guy. I mean, basically the Taylor Swift of 1965, right?
Right.
And to sit back and just kind of try to put your head into the context of that, with the way that the world was at the time, without the social media presence, without obviously the internet or cellular phones and things like that, but still to be able to go in and sell out the Royal Albert Hall 2 days in a row with nothing but an acoustic guitar and a harmonica is just absolutely mind-blowing to me.
It truly is mind-blowing. And he wore it well. He wore the stardom well, even though I know it just had to have made him yearn for quiet moments when he could go back to his apartment in New York and go out and play one of those little folk clubs whenever he wanted to, as opposed to being tethered to these huge tours. He still rose to the occasion every time and never disappointed. Well,
I think that I would think that most people that are in that kind of white hot spotlight do like to get a little protection from it from time to time. And he surrounded himself with people that were really good at doing that. I think another thing I would be on the lookout for if you're going to revisit this movie are all the scenes with Albert Grossman. Are you familiar with that name?
Yes. Was it his manager or something like that for a while?
Exactly. There's some really incredible scenes where Albert Grossman's always kind of like lingering in the background and kind of pops out whenever he needs to do some, defense work for Dylan, or maybe doing some backroom negotiations. There's a really fascinating scene where he's basically negotiating a contract with this guy, Tito Burns, who was kind of the broker for the BBC. And he's basically working back and forth on a deal, and kind of negotiates up a contract with him at the time, I think would have been worth, at the beginning of the call, it was like probably a $10,000, $12,000 engagement. And just through a couple of quick telephone calls in a 5-minute period, he, negotiates the fees up to about $45,000, $50,000 in today's dollars. So it's just, I'm sitting there watching this guy. I'm like, wow, that's the guy that you want to have in your corner. Somebody that can manage the money and the negotiations, but also kind of play defense tackle positions if you're getting harassed by the local hotel owners or whoever it is that's trying to get you to settle down after a long night of living the rock and roll lifestyle.